Okay, this third method, this has to do with one-to-many presentations. So this is a great idea in terms of being efficient, in terms of saving time, saving energy. Well, here, so what I did here is I put time as I put 5 out of 5 only because this does involve, creating a presentation. This does involve doing a bunch of research. This does involve doing some outreach and networking. So the time is there, but this is not as much money, or even this can be free. So that's a good benefit in that sense. These can be done virtually or live. And this is, again, even though I put time here, but this is compared to one-to-one canvassing or door knocking. This is much more efficient because you're in that same hour or so of time, you're targeting many prospects, large audience. So the audience here again is already going to be pre-qualified. They are going to be interested, and as well they are decision makers. And so this is not going to be individual cold outreach, knocking on the door, hey Sonny, is your mommy home? None of that stuff. In terms of audiences, just use your brains here. I mean, mainly what this is other people's networks, OPN here, other people's networks. So for those who want those kind of lucrative commercial deals, how about approaching or interacting or networking with commercial property managers who manage a bunch of commercial properties, offices, retail, shopping centers, multifamily apartment buildings. So, I mean, one deal out of this can give you enough work for several months, even for a year. So, kind of you roofers out there, solar, HVAC, plumbing, any kind of niche you're in, landscaping. Commercial deals are obviously where it's at. It's a higher caliber of clients, much more professional, much more sophisticated, less of a. It is a little bit hard to convince or close, but once you're in with them, it's a you'll see it's just a huge higher difference in quality and work-life balance as well, much less stressful. So if you want to kind of evolve or advance beyond the typical, and I'm not saying this in an insulting way, I'm saying this for your benefit, where you want to, how you direct your focus and energy into the most ideal clients possible, where one interaction will give you multiple fold projects, many jobs, much work, right? Hopefully that makes sense. So if you're, and you should know some of their lingo. So like I'll just give you a quick example. So and I know that in commercial roofing, for flat roofs, there's a way where you don't have to necessarily replace the roof. You can just kind of add layers on top of it. So you can kind of come at the angle of, in your presentation, in your hook there, you can say, well, how about saving on your CapEx, capital expenditures? There's a lingo term there, terminology. How about saving on your CapEx and never having to worry about replacing your commercial roof for your properties? That's like, that will pique their interest, pique their curiosity. Yeah, what do you have there? And then they'll want to be, they'll be interested in attending your presentation. Again, whether it's virtual or live. Same thing with different niche groups. There's so many millions of niche groups out there, online and offline, and we'll go into that in our fourth, technique number 4. And again, as well, more of the affluent neighborhoods. You can interact with their HOAs. Their HOA obviously will represent like a whole neighborhood of houses, where you can. And these kind of affluent neighborhoods, kind of like gated communities, they're usually made up of people who are investment minded. So there's a in terms of the psychology of certain people are consumers. They don't look at money as a investment vehicle that works for you. They just look at it as consuming and shopping and blah blah blah. So their money is a liability. So you don't want to target those. You want to target people who are investment minded, that they look at money in a different way. Those kind of upper level clientele is where you want to be at. So targeting those gated communities or affluent neighborhoods, zip codes and so on, where you can come at them and show the benefit of your service in a way that makes sense to them and speaks their language. And I'm sure you can relate that to your specific industry. So again, this presentation of mine is for any type of home service contractor, right? So just relate it to your industry there. In terms of the presentations, I would suggest you do once a month. And once you do especially for a virtual presentation, once you have one or two under your belts, you can obviously you're going to be saving them. You can like upload them on YouTube, and now you have a pre-recorded virtual presentation or a webinar to speak that can be used repeatedly. So even, I mean, you only really need to do this once or twice, maybe 3 times, at least virtually. And then once you have a virtual webinar that kind of answers the most common questions, the most common pain points, the most common resources that you can address across the board, and then you can just have question or answer afterwards. So that can be an asset that works for you, time and time again. So it's not going to be even a huge time or energy commitment. I mean, you just will do the work once and then use it again and again. But the goal here is to, as I said, establish the 4 R's. That's what the goal is here. So there's rapport. You need to establish respect. You need to establish relatability. They need to know that you understand them. That's where your initial research, comes into play. And also some reciprocity. So you need to provide value up front instead of just jumping directly into your sales pitch. So once you have your research down, once you have your ideal client's profile fully understood, now you can develop your hook, you can develop your marketing message. And so the kind of template or skeleton for that is we help target audience. And again, this isn't going to be something vague in general like we help homeowners. No, specific, niche it down further and further as much as you can. We help a specific class of of property owners get specific results without specific pains by XYZ methods. And so these results and these pains, this comes from your market research. I mean, I can't stress this enough. This is where it starts, market research. And so I kind of mentioned this before in an earlier video. Do affluent clients care about discounts or coupons? No, that doesn't speak to them. It doesn't trigger any emotional motivation in them. And this is good for you too, because now you can get to be paid what you're worth, right? Get more income, more revenue out of your services, as long as you do a good job, obviously. And so when you're crafting your hook, your marketing message, the main core of your marketing message, you need to make sure that you check off 3 requirements. It needs to be benefit rich. What are the outcomes of your services? Obviously, the benefits relating to the client, the prospect. It needs to be specific. You need to have either numbers, or you need to kind of paint a vivid picture in their minds where you describe like a day in their life of what results that looks like for them, so they can imagine it. And the brain is a funny thing. I mean, when you paint enough of a concrete, vivid picture, subconsciously the brain isn't able to tell the difference between what's virtual and what's actually real. So this is kind of like some deep psychological stuff here that you can incorporate. And then obviously, as we mentioned before, it needs to be unique, so you don't sound like your competitors. So you need to make sure that it checks off all of these things. Once you have your hook there, again, it needs to be on point to motivate. That's what's going to motivate the actual attendance as well. Once you're really able to hook them in, then you're going to see those high attendance rates. Otherwise, people are not going to really be motivated to attend your presentation. That's just going to be really suck for you. So once you obviously when you have those attendants, you need to collect their information, so you can do an automated follow-up sequence and and nurture those leads, because those are hot leads for you. So you must at least collect emails, if not as well phone numbers. That's what we mentioned in the database reactivation on the first method. So again, so key components of great presentation. So you need to demonstrate your ability to deliver on the promise and actually realize that hook, that promise for them. You need to show how is your service unique. Again, like an AC unit is an AC unit, a roof is a roof. I mean, from that point. So how you need to just sit down and think, spend some time, even in an indirect way. How is this service offering unique from your competitors, so that they choose you after you've already confirmed that they want that service. You need to eliminate other perceived options or competitors. Again, this kind of ties in why you're unique. Your ability to articulate their frustrations and goals. So again, do your market research, whether that means surveying your already existing clients or doing that online social media research to just kind of jot down and note what people are expressing. Read their minds basically. What are the core benefits of working with you? How you actually serve. Give a breakdown of what you would do for them if they decide to hire you. You should definitely also pre-qualify your audience. So kind of towards the end of your presentation, who do you work with and who do you not work with? So that kind of does the job itself of shaving away those less qualified clients, so you only work with the best of the best. Don't try to just work for everybody and cast a net that's too wide. We need to eradicate any perceived risks, whether that's a financial risk or a time risk or other kind of emotional risks. So just allay those perceived fears or risks there. You need to address them, the elephant in the room, so to speak. And always you need to have a compelling and motivating call to action. That's what the CTA stands for. So your presentation, which should last about 30 to 60 minutes on average, you need to have a title slide that gives the core value proposition. It needs to be specific and not just kind of boring. You need to have a piece in your presentation about who will benefit. I mean, just kind of what I did in this presentation you're watching here. Make it relevant to them about why listen to you. Vividly describe that promise or goal or transformation so that they can picture it in their head. And that's kind of how that augmented reality, is a good example of how that kicks in, because instead of seeing a 2D image on your website, they can scan that QR code and see, they can see in their house what that new hardwood floor looks like, or new kitchen countertop looks like, or new landscape design looks like on their backyard. You need to give some kind of proof, some kind of numbers, metrics, some photos, whatever that means in your specific situation. Give 2 to 3 light bulb moments. Make them say, "Wow, I never knew that." That really establishes your credibility and really attracts them to you. Of course, give the main demonstration of how it all works. And one thing to note here is that complication destroys motivation. So if there's any holes in their understanding, you need to clear those away and make it as simple as possible. Because if it's still complicated to them, they won't really be motivated. They'll be confused, and that will just ruin it. And then, obviously, next steps, if they want to get started, how can they? How do they kind of sign up or hire you for their service? So that's where your call to action comes in. And of course, you seal it with any remaining question and answers. So that's the persuasion sequence of your presentation. That's your skeleton. You can just kind of, when you make your presentation script, and what you need when you practice it, you need to just make sure that you're hitting all of these points. So good luck on that, and I wish you the best. And we'll go to the next section soon.